Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another pick a card reading. We have 4 piles in front of you, and as what the title said, we're going to take a look into what makes you stand out without trying. The first pile, we have the Chariot. Second pile, the Tower. The third pile, we have the Knight of Swords, and the fourth final pile, we have the Page of Wands. Let's jump right into the first pile, and you can pick more than one because we have many of our qualities that makes us stand out without trying. So let's get into pile number 1. Hello there, pile number 1. You chose the Chariot. So initially the Chariot's all about direction. So I feel like you might be someone who's very prideful about like your ideas, and you're kind of like ballsy, as a person. That's what came, to me in here immediately. And you could be also like jacked, or like you regularly work out or you take care of yourself. I feel like, generally. And I think that's what makes you stand out without trying. Physically, you just kind of different compared to most people, or that you have for example achievement in ways that it could be intellect achievement or kind of like champion achievement, but I feel like you are a goal-getter, like you're not gonna just sit there and waiting for the world, the universe to give you what you want. You're the type of person who would try and try and try until you get into what you want. And I think immediately here that with this card, that's what make you pretty much stand out for most people. You're gonna stop at nothing, and yeah, I feel like that's a very great quality you have, and that sets you apart from most people. And you're not afraid to lead. I feel like you're not afraid to become a shocking factor, in a way. Like you're not afraid with challenge. I feel like the more challenge anything presents, I feel like the more it kind of just makes everything excited for you. So you're not the one to back down easily, and I think that's very standout quality of you in here. And you are also like, you're not confused, like generally you're not a confused person. I mean, at times there are things where you can be like a little confusing, but you don't get confused. You're not a type of person who is lost in trance. You lead life with a direction, with movement, with certainty, and with the willingness to work with it. So it doesn't matter. At times, it might be very unsure and the circumstances tested you to the limit, but I feel like you're not one to give up. You're not one to just sit back and watch and sit back and just throw your hands in the air. And I think that is that kind of like warrior quality, that fighter quality is very, very much make you stand out from most people. Let's take a look into more cards. Okay, after the Chariot here, for the right and left, we have Death and the 5 of Wands. I love that. Okay, so with the release 13, it said let go of the past, an ending that makes a way for new opportunities, time to move on. We also have 5 of Spring. It said opposing goals arising from different opinions, feeling at odds with yourself or others, overly ambitious people. You are standing at the eye of a storm, and it lights you up instead of scares you. I feel like you're the type of person who just kind of embrace the death, embrace mini death, embrace changes. I feel like pain and all of the things that makes it practically turn people off. For some reason, you're just handling it great. So I feel like you're the type of person who's very, very great at like suffering. And I don't mean you like it, particularly like it, but I feel like you're such a fighter, and I think you're gonna be literally stop at nothing. And perhaps the transformation and the things that most people pretty much go cocoon. I feel like that's what makes you, that's what gives your life meaning. You're the type of person who embrace chaos, who embrace transformation, who embrace the movement in life. And I think again that sets you apart from most people, because most people are scared of of transformation, of death. Most people are scared of how much of the unknown it is. It's start to get a little eerie sometimes when it gets too mysterious. And I think with if you take a look into the imagery and illustration too in here with the release, like as if at times you just kind of like get possessed to like finish stuff, and move on with life in here. So I feel like nothing could really compare to how good you are enduring those things, and how good you are just kind of the seamless movement you have between transitions. And with the 5 of Spring in there, it looks like you are the type of person who would embrace, I mentioned it before, challenges, but most of all, I feel like conflict or disagreement just kind of makes you want to get to know more, to get to know things a bit better. Because if you see also on the imagery, we get a lot of the butterflies in here, and I think butterfly is a signification, the card that signified a lot of transformation and a lot of transition in life. So I feel like you just see a disagreement or a fight as something to be solved, as something that eventually you have the answer to that eventually. So again, I feel like what sets you apart, like makes you stand out without trying, is that these qualities, like a god complex qualities, I guess, that makes you just pretty much embracing life to the fullest, and you don't miss out shit, and at the same time, like, it's very ballsy, so I feel like a lot of people has very like utmost respect, and it's also terrifying at the same time. Like, you do have a dead wish, I think, for pile number 1. Let's get into more of the cards here. Okay, what we have is the 10 of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands, and the Page of Cups. That's very interesting. What makes you stand out for most people is that you have purpose in life. I did mention it, with the Chariot that you chose even in here. It makes sense that you have a picture, like a perfect picture life that you want to make come true, that you want to make real, that you want to manifest into real life. And I feel like you are holding on to that long-term vision, and I think that it takes a lot of principle and a lot of guts for a person to do that, a lot of balls big balls, for a person to do that. And I think you have that in you. You're not afraid to lose one competition in order to win the war. You're not afraid of sacrifices. I feel like that's what makes you pretty much stand out from most people. And which very interesting in here, it could be your sense of humor, and the fact that you're still pretty much have a good sense of humor regardless how crazy shit gets. I feel like you're never lose your spirit, pile number 1. You're not the one to tap out. I feel like you're gonna be like the last one standing, something like that in here. You're just resilient, by nature you're resilient. And I feel like you have an attitude about that, and I think the way how light you are facing this darkest moment in life, I think that's very remarkable, and that's like impressive, that's like another level of impressive. There is something about the way you do it just makes it so it's terrifying. How I feel like it's terrifying how optimistic you can get. And I think how bold your idea can be, because Page of Cups can mean an idealist about ideas, about breakthroughs. Like, you're no stranger to make a bold opportunity out of nothing, so I feel like you're the one who gambles. You're the one who's like not. I feel like the more challenging things get, like the more you're also worked up. Again, I feel like that's an odd quality to have, but at the very same time, it's a terrifying one. It looked terrifying, for most people, but I mean, it doesn't make it less impressive, because it is genuinely impressive. So that's what we have. That's what makes you stand out without trying, pile number 1. I hope you enjoyed this. Take whatever resonates and leave the rest. Let's move on to pile number 2. Okay, pile number 2, hello, welcome to your pile. What makes you stand out without trying? You chose the Tower card. So the Tower is the ultimate card of the unexpected. So I feel like you are just unexpected. Like, people can't read you. I feel like what makes you stand out without trying is because you're just stand out from most people. It could be there's something about your aesthetic. It could be also something that's like, I'm so fixated over the Tower that has like a lot of like skulls in here, so I feel like you are kind of like, you could be like embracing a very like a questionable life, what questionable life is like. You could be living with like a 2000s aesthetic or 1990s, aesthetic, where most people look forward for improvement technology and like modern day. You're just kind of like going against what people expect of you. I think this is the unexpected context, we get from you, pile number 2. So this collective is like, you are just like a jungle after jungle, so like when there is if it is like an onion and you peel the first layer, there will be more to peel until it is get to the center. Even there's still more to peel. So I feel like you're an endless version. You're the type of person who has like an endless version of transformation, or that you're not sugarcoating. Like, you're not sugarcoating stuff. I feel like you could be also very honest with so many things. You're very like confrontational. You're not afraid to call these things out. You're not afraid to destabilize a structure if it doesn't make sense. So you're not afraid to question authorities. You're not afraid to question what is not make sense to you, you know? And also, you're right. I feel like you could be like generating a very massive and a very like a striking forward idea in less than a second. So I feel like you're very surprising. You're like a fresh element, you know? You're like a breath of fresh air for so many people. And I feel like that what makes you stand out, the fact that there's this never ending refreshed versions of you know, never ending renewal. And I feel like you're just like that collapse, you know, and like a breath of fresh air for so many people, collective. Let's take a look into more cards that you have. Okay, so the next two cards we have is the Nine of Winter and the Seven of Summer. Nine of Winter said unfounded fear, focusing on the worst case scenarios, allowing worry to grow out of the proportion to the problem. On the Seven of Summer, that is the Seven of Cups, it said no more procrastinating. Your power comes from making decisions, confusion that arises from overanalyzing the options. So what we see in here is that you have more endurance. I feel like, for like compared to most people, I feel like what makes you stand out, without trying, you can turn the worst into the best. Like, you could literally start like behind and in a like worst case scenario, but for some reason you're just able to change it into an opportunity of a lifetime, you know? And I feel like at times also, surprisingly, you can underestimate yourself. And I think that's, again, the qualities. I mean, there are some people in life, you know, where they know their capacity and they spend their lifetime to prove it to people. And it doesn't really make them stand out, you know, because they're like, there's this feeling of like, oh, they're just being prideful about it, right? But I feel like, again, it may sound very like strange to hear, but I feel like you could be like shy, you know, at first, to like showcase your talent, for example, or maybe you're a little like reserved, you know, like a little introverted and not very open to most people about yourself, about your life. But I feel like, and I think that's what makes you stand out, the fact that you like people know you have more capacity than what you give yourself credit for, and you have more capacity than most people who's actually overestimating themselves has. Yet for some reason you just don't feel comfortable and confident enough to do that. And I think that's what makes you like, it looks like you're very humble, and like you're always ready with the worst case scenario, you know, you're always ready with like the worst situation ever. Like, I feel like you're not playing when it comes to your endurance. Like, I mean that literally. You're not playing about it. And I feel like you're just so, you know, you're so strong, I feel like, you know. And I think just a little message here, you know, give yourself more credit, collective, like literally, because I feel like you're more accommodating than you give yourself credit for. And I think that's what makes you very, you know, very much stand out compared to most people. The fact that you don't even realize those qualities that makes you you. And I think that's like oddly adorable. That's what I get here. Let's take a look for more cards here. Let's pull more cards. Okay, for the tarot cards we have in here is the Eight of Pentacles, Queen of Swords, and the Hermit. Yes, and I think this is all coming from the fact that you're just spending like endless time to refine your skills, to refine yourself, you know. With the Eight of Pentacles, like, you are just a hard worker, and I don't think sometimes you realize it, collective. But please take a break. Like, you're so isolated with yourself. I feel like at times you don't see that people move at literally snail speed compared to you. And I think that's what I get here with the Hermit and the Queen of Swords. You know, you're so much more like stoic than you give yourself credit for, and you're like so much more resilient. And I think you don't understand how massive of a progress that you made at times, and I feel like you don't understand how much of a riddle you are to most people. Like, I feel like people know literally just like a splash of you, because of that seven, like this, all of this card practically just said like, I just couldn't care less about shit, you know. I feel like you're so busy in developing yourself or developing your project. I feel like you're the type of person who's just like, you don't get into people's business, and you respect that, and on top of that, you don't have time for it, you know. You literally don't have time for it. So if some of you here has a lot of like air signs, you know, like Aquarius, not literally like air signs, so could be like your you could be like an Aquarius, maybe like a tad bit Capricorn, or maybe some of you has a little of I would say like a Pisces in here. That's what I get. You know, I feel like you're just kind of, you're literally so focused. I hear also like a little bit of a Libra, hearing a little bit of a Scorpio. Like you couldn't care less because you're so focused on your craft, you're so focused in your progress, you're so focused with yourself, with your lives. Like, so for example, if you're going out, you chose clothes that make you feel comfortable, you dress for comfort, but to some people it makes you very much stand out because you don't try too hard, you know. Something about you just feels very effortless and real to so many people, and I think that's what makes you stand out, the fact that you don't try to stand out at all, which is it could be a surprise to you here. So let me know, pile number 2, if I'm dead on the money on that. Let's take a look into pile number 3, take whatever resonates and leave the rest as it is. I will see you in the next one. Let's move on to the next pile. Okay, hello pile number 3, you chose the Knight of Swords pile in here. And this is going to be what makes you stand out without trying. So with the Knight of Swords, okay, there's definitely, it could be something. Okay, first of all, I see an object other than you as a person, so I'm so sorry. I feel like so many people is being very like subjective about you, you know. I feel like no, not subjective, being very objective about you. I feel like there's something your possession. You could be, you know, someone with a lot of resources. You could be like an influence, like someone with a lot of influence. You could be like an important person, and I feel like it could be something that you drive, you know, something like your car or your motorcycle, or something about like it could be like you're also, you know, who knows in here, like maybe like you have like a Birkin, you know, or we're talking about something very like limited edition, and I think you're known by that quality. I'm so sorry, first of all, and again, you know, if you're the type of person who just like, okay, I wish people would see what, like, who I am before, but I feel like it just tells me that your reputation precedes you. I feel like people know you, or you know, what makes you stand out most than most people is that the fact that your work or your reputation speak for yourself, so they don't exactly know who you are. I feel like this pile is very interesting because most of the people don't get to know, you know, like it's not a quality, like a quality trait that makes you stand out than most people. It's the way you present yourself, it's your story. I feel like that speak a lot when it comes to it. So yeah, apart from that, what makes you stand out without trying is your influence, is your power, and it's your device or your upbringing. It's whatever that's surrounding you. It's whatever that you've created. It's whatever that you've managed to bring to life. And I feel like you've come so far. That's what I get in here. It's kind of giving me that, you know, for example, you came out of nothing, like from a small town, and like out of nowhere you just like, everybody knew you. So that's what I get here. Yeah, celebrate it here because it's kind of giving that energy. Let's take a look into more cards anyway. If you are welcome, you know, like but we don't have a special treatment here. We're all kind of like same people, same souls. Let's take a look into a few more cards. Okay, the next few card we have is the Seven of Spring. Yeah, it shows. It said, be assertive, don't back down from what you believe, courageously stand up for yourself. We have let's talk about the Seven of Spring first. That is the Seven of Wands. Ruling is Leo Mars. That is naturally a very like defensive card. That's generally fighting card. And what we get here, I feel like it shows the Knight of Swords, the Seven of Spring. You don't back shit down, you know, from whatever you said. You're like, you stand by what you said. Like, you said what you said, I said what I said type of person, you know. It's impossible to change your mind. It's impossible to change your direction. You can be very stubborn as hell, but who cares about it at this point? I feel like you're someone who knows themselves, you know. And I think that's a quality that people just can't look away, you know. That's a quality that, like, it makes you stand out because you're being true to yourself, and you're also prideful about that, and you're willing to fight for that. So it's giving me kind of like a warrior of faith, you know, warrior of your principle. You are fighting for yourself. You don't fight for shit, but you fight for yourself. And I think that's like, there's a lot of, can you hear the tone in here? Like, there's a lot of pride that comes with that, you know. There's a lot of like royalty feeling in here, that you're not backing down for shit, as I said before. That's what I get, you know, immediately. And then the second card we have is a Four of Winter. That is the Four of Swords. Set aside your concerns for now. You can make a decision later. Solutions that comes from meditation, the need for more sleep, or a vacation. That is interesting. So despite of how royal things can get, you know, given pretty much like warrior vibes, but also you're giving, like, I feel like you just look like someone who calls up the shots. Remember, what sets you apart from most people here, what makes you stand out without trying, is your reputation. So remember that people already claim you as someone who has influence, despite of whatever the real life circumstances may look like. And I feel like you're just the type of person that people don't want to screw over, you know. And look, like with the Four of Winter too, you're chilling because you know things are gonna work out for you, you know. You have so much patience with yourself and matters, but also it's kind of like a calculated patience, which is kind of terrifying at times. So when you're like quiet and like, you know, which I think it's part of your upbringing, so you could be very like stoic at face, or like it's very calm down, you know. It's very, people can't read your face easily because you don't give anything to read, you know. You're like a good, very good, like a card player, poker player, you know. You have a poker face, and I think that makes a lot of people doubt themselves. That's what I get in here, and I think that's what makes you stand out without trying. The fact that if they screw you over, this is basically suicide mission. That's what I get here. Let's take a look into the tarot card. Okay, for the tarot spread we have here is the Knight of Pentacles, yes, the Page of Swords, and the Four of Wands. You're someone that actually used their brain. You know, with the Page of Swords, you are a person of influence, you know, a person of power. I think you've made yourself, like, you've come this far and you've made your name this far. You've climbed your way up, like you've got here for a reason, and such a long story. And I think with the Knight of Pentacles, it gives you so much experiences to get into the place where you at right now. And with the Page of Swords, you know, like, you're very agile, and what I mean is, like, you're logically agile, you're smart, you're calm, and you're very, very resourceful, you know. So I think the fact that people would definitely have you on their speed dial, only if that they know that they would only have to use it one time, because you would obviously pick up and you would obviously help people, but you can only use it one time because you're just, you know, you make people feel respect, you know, towards you. And with the Four of Wands, again, that's like the ultimate manifestation card. It speaks a lot about like a huge legacy or like a wish come true. So like I said, I feel like what makes you stand out compared to most people is your influence. It's your power. Your reputation precedes you. And I think you're kind of just like, I mean, in personal life, and also professionally, I've mentioned many times in any channel, really, I don't condone, like, I literally don't support like hierarchy status and stuff. That's exactly what we're trying to break. But looking at this, it looked like you're kind of like in a different class, so quote unquote, in here, because that's what I'm channeling. So yeah, take it. A win is a win. Let's take a look into the pile number 4. Take whatever resonates and leave the rest. I will see you in the next one. Okay there, pile number 4, you chose the Page of Wands. Page of Wands in here for what makes you stand out without trying. Okay, it could be your body. Sorry for saying this, but I feel like it could be like you're a magnetic person, you know, like you're a magnetic person. You're like a siren. It gives me siren energy, you know. Something about you just make people don't want to look away. It could be your hands, veins, or neck, or it could be your, you know, the color that you wear, like olive, you know, like a dark purple, you know, just very captivating and set you apart from the rest. And it could be also like your skin tone. Like there's a lot of physical appearances in here attached to pile number 4. So I feel like you're like a beautiful person. That must be the only explanation. I feel like you're just like categorically you're like smile, and your smile, you're just so handsome and beautiful. That's what I get. Gorgeous, you know, overall. So I feel like what sets you apart is that you're basically premium package on the physical in here. And I'm so sorry, that's probably quite uncomfortable to read for some of you, but hey, it's a compliment, and take it, you know, take the compliment. And these people mean nothing but the best, literally. And also something about you, just like you could be like someone who's healed, you know. That's what I get here. So you could be gone through a certain turbulence in life that turns you into a better person than to the worst, you know. Someone that actually grow from challenge. And that's what I get in here, is that the fact that for someone who's like good looking, right, for someone who's like physically like that, people just don't expect that internally you're kind of like a monk energy. Internally you're kind of like a guru, like a, you know, there's a lot of teacher coach energy here. But the fact that deep down you are, that makes you kind of like, this is one of a kind people we met, this is a one of a kind collective. Let's take a look into the next 2 cards in here. Well, what did I say about a monk in here? We have an actual awakening card. That's spiritual awakening card. That is the Hanged Man. It said, change the way you're looking at the situation, embrace your uniqueness, a temporary pause in the action. So you are just a considerate person. Your perspective and the way you're looking at life is very unique, that it captivates people. I think it shines, you know, your quality, your uniqueness, it speaks so loud. I feel like everyone is just so surprised and taken aback by sometimes just your wisdom and how you look at matters, or even the way you live, you know. So for example, you chose like live in trails, you know, or that suburban life, or maybe like you chose to live in the woods, for example. You know, I know it's like a very stereotypical, but what I get in here is that you do life differently, you see life differently, and your perception is just something that's worth listening to and actually applied in life. And I think that's makes you very much stand out than most people, because you're different. You know, this is like a ultimate different card with the awakening card. And also we have the 10 of Winter. That is the 10 of Swords, the resolution of difficulties. Like I said, a weight lifted off your shoulder, the end of an addiction or codependency. I think what makes you stand out then, like, you know, like without trying, is that you've been at both sides of the situation, so to say, you know. You've been at the worst, you've been at the best. You've been literally you've fluctuated between the curves and between spectrum. You've been at the worst, you've been at the best, and I think that's what gave you perspective over life. You've tried everything, and I think that's what makes a lot of people place their trust on you and makes you stand out than most people. The fact that you're not bullshitting around. If you say something, probably it is the truth, because you've gone through it before. Why the fuck would you lie? You know, why the fuck would you not say the truth? So I feel like there is something about you that makes so many people kind of like, there's a lot of healing. Like I said, people, I feel like, come looking for you to heal. So for example, this could be coming like from a lot of your clients, that they feel like you're just different from a lot of healers that they found so far. So that's what we get in here. And then yeah, again, it could be like your occupation doesn't match your face, and then what I mean is like people would expect you like living in this life and you're living a complete different life, which is it's very surprising. That could be the case. Let's take a look into the Tarot spread in here. We have the 6 of Wands, the Strength, and the 6 of Pentacles. Well, I mean, with the 6 of Wands in here, immediately you are you're loved by so many people. You're loved and you've accomplished so many things in life. But again, we can lie with that strength energy. You're gentle. You're gentle, you're compassionate, and you're very kind. And I think, again, despite for and to connect the point in here, before we finish that sentence, the Six of Pentacles, if you see imagery, they're like giving people, you're kind of like the upper hand now, and the compass is the scale that this person with a red cloak has, a scale, someone who's fair, someone who's willing to give. And in the strength also, you see someone who's giving, who's showcased that there is still kindness left in the world. So I feel like you're just one of those people who's like a rare find, like genuinely a genuine person. And I think, we've got to admit it's hard to find it these days. And I think you've kind of like successfully changed a lot of people's thoughts about so many things. You give life perspective, you give people a second life. I feel like you breathe a second life towards people. You give life towards, and anything that you touch, and everything you're living at or surrounded with. I feel like that's a very, like, what makes you like set apart from most people, that the fact that you're just so generously giving and giving and giving, because you've gone through it before. Just because you've gone through it, you have an understanding, you've gone through it before, and you're never gonna let anyone go through the same thing as you are before. And I think that compassion really sets you apart from most people. And that would be all for pile number 4. Thank you so much for being here. Take whatever resonates and leave the rest. I will see you in the next one. Have a very lovely day, and all the best. I'll catch you up in another prediction.